The Galactic Combat Academy had never seen anything like it. Instructor Jenkar stood in the training arena, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief as he watched the predator cubs move through their drills. These weren't just any cubs. These were Cravathi young apex hunters from a world where survival meant killing before being killed. Their species had conquered 12 star systems through sheer ferocity alone. Yet here they were, moving with a discipline that belonged in elite military units, not juvenile training programs. "Formation," barked the smallest cub at the front. Instantly, 20 young Cravathi snapped into a perfect defensive circle, their razor-sharp claws retracted, their muscular bodies coiled with controlled power. No snarling, no chaos, no dominance displays that typically erupted when more than 3 predator cubs occupied the same space. Just pure, focused discipline. Jenkar's mandibles clicked in confusion. He had trained Cravathi cubs for 17 cycles. They were brilliant fighters, instinctive, savage, unstoppable. But they were also volatile, hierarchical, and utterly impossible to organize into cohesive units until they reached maturity. These cubs were different. "Who taught you this?" Jenkar demanded, his translator converting his chittering speech into standard galactic. 20 pairs of golden eyes turned toward the observation deck. 20 clawed fingers pointed in perfect unison. At the human, Alara sat cross-legged on the metal bench, her dark hair pulled back in a simple braid, her expression neutral. She didn't wave, didn't smile, just watched with those strange, patient eyes that seemed to see everything and judge nothing. Jenkar felt his blood chill. Humans. Of course it would be a human. He had heard the stories. Everyone had. The species that hunted by walking their prey to death. The apes who threw rocks at the stars until the stars fell. The creatures so insane they had befriended their own predators and called them pets. But this? Training Cravathi cubs? "Come down here," Jenkar called up to her, struggling to keep his voice steady. Alara rose smoothly, descended the stairs, and entered the arena. The cub's ears perked up immediately. Vor, the largest of them, stepped forward with a rumbling purr, a sound of greeting reserved only for pack leaders. "Vor," Alara said quietly. The cub immediately returned to formation, his tail lowering in submission. Jenkar's 4 eyes blinked independently. A Cravathi cub, a predator cub, showing submission to a creature half its size? "Explain," Jenkar said flatly. "How did you do this? What neural conditioning did you use? What pheromone manipulators? What threat displays?" "None," Alara replied, her voice calm. "I just taught them. Impossible. Cravathi cubs don't learn discipline. They fight for dominance until one emerges as leader. It's biological. It's instinctive. You cannot simply—" "They're children," Alara interrupted. "Not animals." The arena went silent. Jenkar felt his carapace flush with color. Embarrassment, anger, confusion. They are predator-class juveniles with a violence index of 8.7. They are dangerous, unpredictable, and they're children, Alara repeated, stepping closer to Vor. She placed one small soft hand on the cub's massive shoulder. He leaned into her touch, that deep purr vibrating through the arena. They're scared. They're far from home. They don't understand why their parents sent them here, or what the galaxy expects from them, so they fight because fighting is what they know. Then how? I showed them something else. Alara knelt beside Vor, her eyes level with his. I showed them that discipline isn't weakness, that control isn't submission, that the strongest warriors aren't the ones who strike first, they're the ones who choose when to strike. Vor's ears flicked forward. The human teaches us the old ways, he said, his voice still high with youth but edged with pride. Before the conquest fleets, before we forgot, Jenkar's mandibles went slack. The old ways? Those are myths, legends. The Cravathi were always conquerors. No, Vor growled softly. We were guardians first. Hunters who protected the pack. Warriors who fought with honor. His golden eyes shifted to Alara. She remembers what we forgot. But she's not even Cravathi. She's a human, Vor said simply. And humans understand. Over the following weeks, Jenkar watched. He watched Alara teach the cubs to breathe through their rage, to channel their aggression into precision strikes instead of wild slashes. He watched her sit with them during meals, showing them how to eat slowly, deliberately, savoring instead of gorging. He watched her break up fights not with force, but with a single word that made the combatants freeze mid-strike and separate, shamefaced. He watched her run endurance drills that left the cubs panting and exhausted, but proud. So impossibly proud, why do you do this? Jenkar finally asked her one evening, after the cubs had been dismissed to their quarters. Ilara was cleaning training equipment, her movements efficient and methodical. Do what? Carrot, these cubs aren't your species, aren't your responsibility. You could be anywhere in the galaxy, why here? Why them? Ilara paused, setting down a practice blade. On Earth we have a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Doesn't matter if that child has fur, scales, or tentacles. If they need guidance and I can give it, why wouldn't I? Because they're predators. Because their species has waged war across. They're children, Ilara said for the third time, and Jenkar finally understood. To the galaxy, these cubs were statistics, danger assessments, future soldiers in an endless cycle of conquest. To the human, they were just kids who needed someone to believe in them. On graduation day, the Kravathi cubs stood in perfect formation before the Academy's High Council. Other instructors presented their students, competent, trained, adequate. Then Jenkar presented Ilara's cubs. They moved like water, like shadows, like a single organism with 20 minds thinking as one. The council members leaned forward in their seats, mandibles clicking and tentacles curling with interest. Remarkable, the council head said. Instructor Jenkar, your methods have exceeded all expectations. How did you achieve this? Jenkar opened his mouth to answer, but before he could speak, 20 voices rang out in unison. He didn't. 20 clawed fingers pointed at the human. Again, Ilara stood at the edge of the arena, quiet as always, patient as stone. But this time she smiled, a small, proud expression that made Vor's chest swell with warmth. The council head turned to her. Then perhaps, human Ilara, you should explain your methods. The galaxy would benefit from... There's no secret, Ilara said simply. I just treated them like what they are. And what is that? Ilara looked at her cubs, her students, her pride, and her smile widened, full of potential.